Twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder where you are. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Graphic Content. I'm your host Ted Kendrick, and today we're going to be talking about The Green Lantern by Grant Morrison. This is actually part one of a 3-issue miniseries ongoing right now. It's called Green Lantern Black Stars. This one, of course, written by Grant Morrison with art by Zeramiko, who's a new artist on the book. Now following the Green Lantern ongoing series, which just ended with issue number 12, wrapping up Grant Morrison's very first story arc in his Green Lantern epic. He kind of has been calling it the first season. And as Grant Morrison's shown in the past in his runs on books like Batman and Batman and Robin, Batman Incorporated, he kind of writes these ongoing books to have different chapters along the way. So Grant Morrison has been doing Green Lantern. He kind of branded the story that he's been building up as taking it back to its space cop roots. We had 10 years of an amazing Green Lantern book by Jeff Johns, who kind of went through the Sinestro Corps War into Blackest Night, Brightest Day, War of the Green Lanterns, and so forth, building this epic story with Green Lantern and the color spectrum, introducing the yellow lanterns, red lanterns, orange lantern, and everything in between. So after 10 years of that, it's been kind of refreshing to go back and see this sort of, it was supposed to be a bit more grounded take on Hal Jordan, but knowing Grant Morrison, this has become just as heady and multiverse traveling sort of, it's very much not grounded in that sort of space cop way that I sort of expected. This is a bit more of a horror sci-fi book. And the first story arc begins with Hal investigating the controllers. There's Controller Mu, who is now going through the universe and building his own group of black stars. If you remember from the 1990s, there was a group called the Dark Stars, and for a brief moment, characters like John Stewart, who was a Green Lantern for a while, the Green Lantern, the Justice League cartoon, and Donna Troy, Wonder Girl from the Teen Titans, who would go on to be Troya. Both of those characters were part of the Dark Stars, not the Black Stars, but the Dark Stars, although they are very similar. They have very similar costumes, and they were both sort of led by the Controllers. Now, the Controllers are an offshoot of the Guardians of Oa. They were all from the same original species, but the Guardians split off, and then there were the Controllers and the Zamaron princesses, who created the Star Sapphires and a few others in between. But now we have a Controller who is looking to get back into the game. So the first couple of issues, Hal Jordan infiltrates the Controllers. He ends up meeting a character called Beelzebeth, who is a cosmic vampiress. She kind of takes a liking to Hal, takes Hal under her wing, and kind of like tests Hal to prove that he has what it takes to become a Dark Star. And once he does, Hal takes on the name Parallax, again leading back to the years where Hal went renegade. He destroyed the Green Lantern Corps in the early 90s, killed so many of his fellow Lanterns in a rage from when Mongol destroyed Coast City shortly after the events of the death and return of Superman. So this name Parallax has a lot of weight in the Green Lantern mythos, and it usually is a way to show that, like, okay, Hal is evil now. Parallax was his evil name that he took on, but later retconned in Jeff Johns' run to be actually a parasitic entity that possessed Hal rather than just Hal simply going evil. So being Black Star Parallax, Hal has to prove himself, and he's taken to Adam Strange, the occasional Justice League ally, who's been taken prisoner, and Beelzebeth and the Controllers ask Hal, hey, if you want to be a part of our Black Star group, you have to kill Adam Strange, and we know that he's kind of your friend, so this is going to be a real test of loyalty. So Hal Jordan's able to kind of finagle it in a way where both the Controllers are satisfied, but he's able to help Adam Strange escape as well. So after that first couple issues, I'm planting the seeds for a character called the Quaman, who is the antimatter version of Hal Jordan. More on him later. He's definitely where it gets more horror sci-fi. The series took a little break in issue number 7, which was one of my favorite issues of the series. So it's all set in a sort of fantasy world that's very reminiscent of Neil Gaiman and the kind of stories that he would tell in the Sandman series. There's a sort of interdimensional imp called Mirrodon. Something like that, Mirrodon. If I say it enough times, it might be like Rumpelstiltskin and he might appear. But so Hal goes into this fantasy realm, and he is obviously rescuing this woman. What we find out near the end of the issue, though, is it's not just any fantasy realm, it's actually a world within the ring. And it's not just any woman, it is the embodiment of the AI of Hal Jordan's Green Lantern power ring. So for so many issues throughout this series, but also in plenty of other Green Lantern runs, we have Hal interacting with the AI voice of his Green Lantern Lantern ring. It's usually shown in captions with a sort of Green Lantern power battery outline around the ring's dialogue, but it was a really cool issue to see him actually like interact with an avatar of his Green Lantern power ring. It reminded me a little bit of Ava from the Green Lantern the animated series, where she was a robotic avatar version of the ship's AI system, but this is, you know, actually the power ring. So Hal Jordan ends up freeing her from the influence of this interdimensional imp just in time for before the power ring lost its charge as well. So that was a pretty amazing issue, and from there it got even more heady, where Grant Morrison brings in his concepts from multiversity. So there's a couple issues where Hal Jordan is whisked away into the multiverse again. He is approached by other lanterns from across the multiverse, including some we've seen before, such as Abin Sur from the multiversity issue, the Society of Superheroes, as well as the Green Flashlight, who's from a parallel Earth. We see Cairo, the Green Lantern from Earth 12 in the background a little bit. There's the Green Lantern Bruce Wayne version, who's basically Batman in a Green Lantern suit, as well as a really funny stoner Green Lantern who's kind of there for comic relief. And he plays really well off of the Batman Green Lantern too. There's a line in here I'm really surprised DC let Grant Morrison keep it, but he's kind of like, is Batman a dick in every universe? And it turns out he is, yeah. So the multiverse is under threat. They're brought to a world where there's this dark wizard controlling them. It ends up being the Abin Sur version from the Society of Superheroes book. Not a dark wizard, he's just kind of misunderstood, and Hal teams up with them, and they eventually, it's really kind of complicated to explain, so I don't even know really why I'm going into it, but take it from me, if you like multiverse sort of shenanigans, there's a lot to like. I think it was issues numbers 10, 11, and 12. They were kind of wrapping it up. All these different Green Lanterns end up going against the Quaman from the Antimatter universe, the Quaman, QWA. And there's also the antimatter version of Sinestro there, who is kind of funny because, as Grant Morrison introduced in the JLA Earth 2 book from the early 2000s, the antimatter universe is actually sort of a placeholder for Earth 3, where everything that was good is actually evil, everything evil is good. So the heroes are the crime syndicate, although the crime syndicate never actually appears in this book in particular, but there is a version of Sinestro from the antimatter universe who is a hero. He's a good guy. His costume's inverted, so that's kind of how we can tell he's the opposite. Instead of the black costume with the blue fray, it's reversed, a blue costume with black. He is modeled after David Nivens, the actor who Sinestro was originally based off of in the 60s. He was drawn to look like David Nivens, and even more so here in this comic. And he's got a really funny British accent way of speaking to him, which gives him an element of comic relief as well. There was also an annual that Grant Morrison put out where the Green Lantern visits the realm of Quiz. That's something that Morrison introduced during his Flash run. There was a creature that kind of looks like Sonic the Hedgehog, who is Wally West's childhood friend. In fact, was a real creature from this other dimension called Quiz, which exists on Grant Morrison's Multiverse map. You can find that in the Multiversity book. Quiz is kind of in the bottom right of the map, where it exists just outside the multiverse, but sort of in line with the Speed Force. It's a realm there. A lot of the creatures there have super speed and are shown as kind of being hedgehog-looking people, but with lots of lightning-based powers. So kind of looks like the first live-action trailer of Sonic the Hedgehog before it got redone to be a little more cartoony, so the stuff of nightmares, but that's okay. It was cool to see that concept come back, especially since Morrison kind of hinted at it with the multiverse map, and I personally enjoyed the issue. I wonder, though, if it would have been a harder read had I not have known about the Flash elements. There's a few other really awesome moments in the Green Lantern series. In issue number 3, Earth goes up for auction, and it's kind of like Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy in that way, where a bunch of different alien entities have come to bid on who gets Earth. We have some familiar characters like the White Martians and the Dominators. Ultimately, Earth goes to the winner, a person called the Shepherd, who's very Hebrew god inspired of a character. I say it's like Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy because there's even one character who's like, what's the Earth's notion for self-harm? And it's like, yeah, it's kind of high. So it's a good planet to bid on, but it is, you know, they're just things that we do to our planet. Ultimately, the Shepherd entity that buys Earth is revealed to be a demonic entity, as it always is. It's never what it seems, right? Grant Morrison also goes on to introduce new Green Lanterns, as he's done in books like the X-Men. He'll introduce new mutants. Here we've got Green Lanterns that we never met before. One in particular, actually I'll say two. The first one, his name is Fluzelflem. Fluzelflem is a living virus, and he's got a really funny tagline: you can't catch Fluzelflem, Fluzelflem catches you. And there's another one called Volk, who is literally, he's got a volcano for a neck, and every now and then just spurts lava out of his head, and so he's a really funny looking Green Lantern as well. that's kind of half the fun of reading this book. One more really cool callback to some past Green Lantern sort of books is Grant Morrison does an issue where there's the Zine Lantern and Zine Arrow. Zine as in Xeen, which is both a version of Green Lantern and Green Arrow from a world where they're both kind of tall and slender. They're not human. They're very alien looking sort of interdimensional creatures, and in this realm Zine is their color green, which is actually taken from an old Jack Kirby issue of Green Lantern, in which Kirby was very much just like pushing the concept of Zine. I believe it was actually Zine Arrow from a Green Arrow comic, and now here Grant Morrison kind of brings back the Neil Adams tradition of the Green Arrow Green Lantern team up, but also introduces the Zine Lantern. So a really wacky story that really played with the sort of construction of the comic with the panel layouts and stuff, and I personally really enjoyed it. And ultimately it's all leading to this Black Stars 3-issue miniseries that I introduced the episode with. So that is ongoing right now. It is sort of the second act of this Green Lantern epic, and it's going to lead into what Grant Morrison is calling the second season of the Green Lantern ongoing book. I think it might start with another issue number 1. But either way, the Green Lantern Black Stars book seems like a great jumping on point. We have the Black Star Beelzebub leading Hal Jordan to Earth to conquer Earth, and so that's where the second issue of the series is leading. We're going to see a showdown between the Black Stars and the Justice League, and we'll see how Jordan's loyalty be tested with his friends. Although this is a reality where the Green Lantern Corps never existed, the controllers were able to morph reality, so the Green Lantern Corps were never there. They've taken over Oa. The Black Stars are the fascist force of law and order in the galaxy. So no more Green Lanterns, it's all Black Stars, and now they have their sights on Earth. So I'm really excited to see where the series goes. I'm sure from my description of the series so far, it's probably not for everyone. It's very disjointed so far in this type of stories Grant Morrison's been telling, but if you have an open mind and you're willing to kind of forgive some of that looseness, I think you might see a lot to enjoy here. So Black Stars being a 3-issue series seems a bit more rigid rather than sort of flowy as the first season was, but we'll see how it ends and how it'll play into season 2 when Hal inevitably becomes a Green Lantern once again. So that's Green Lantern Black Stars. Thanks again for watching graphic content. I've got a few more episodes here on the way under my belt over the next couple weeks. If you've enjoyed this show and you want to see other videos on the Watchtower Database, we have video essays every Sunday, and we have backlog videos of the 12th Level Intellects podcast. You can support us in a couple different ways by going on patreon.com/DCAU Watchtower. We have a couple different levels of perks that you can be a part of. Hopefully there's a scrolling list of names here going on while I'm talking about Patreon. We have a bunch of amazing supporters. We do video chats once a month. We show behind the scenes videos and artwork for the Legacies webcomic issue, among so many other things. We also have teespring.com. James Strecker's been so, I don't know the right word, but he's made a bunch of new stuff for the Teespring. Productive. He's been really productive. You can buy new coffee mugs, t-shirts, all sorts of merch with inside jokes from the Watchtower Database videos. So go check that out at the links below. So yeah, graphic content. Join me again in a couple weeks and I'll talk about another comic. Have a good one. Bye.